She-Ra, bum ba dum ba dum bum bum. She-Ra, She-Ra, hey! 2025 is She-Ra's 40th birthday. That's right, celebrating 40 years of the Princess of Power. And to celebrate, Mattel sent along this nifty box, which we are going to open up and take a look at what's inside today. Because within this box are some of the new figures as part of the Masters of the Universe Origins line, meant to celebrate the 40th anniversary of She-Ra. So why don't we go ahead and open this cool box up. Adorned with this cool 40th anniversary logo on the top and some images of She-Ra from the Filmation animated series along the sides, the inside of this box contains a whole bunch of confetti and a couple of Masters of the Universe Origins cartoon collection action figures. One of those figures is She-Ra herself from that first wave of the new 40th anniversary Princess of Power stuff that's coming in the cartoon collection. And then we've also got her arch nemesis Hordak, who's actually part of that second wave of figures. In addition to those, we've also got this incredible 2-pack that I've been really excited about ever since it was announced. It's the Sketchbook series, which gives us 2 concept figures for members of the evil Horde. Now, in addition to the figures that Mattel sent me in this box, I'm also going to use this video to take a look at some of the other figures that are already shipping part of this 40th anniversary of Princess of Power. We're going to round out the rest of that wave with She-Ra by also taking a look at Ram Man and Mantenna, figures that I already had pre-ordered and shipped from over at Big Bad Toy Store. As always, I will make sure that I've got chapters set in this video, so if you want to skip around to check out the figures you're only interested in, feel free to do so, but then after you do that, come back and watch the entire video, because if you like toys, you have to do it. It's the rules. So let's go ahead and start things off by taking a look at these 2 figures right here. We've got the cartoon collection She-Ra, most powerful woman in the universe, and the cartoon collection Hordak, ruthless leader of the evil Horde. Now, I think the first thing we need to mention here is the packaging change for the cartoon collection. In an effort to pay homage to the 40th anniversary of She-Ra, we now have that cool little embossed 40th logo up here in the corner of the packaging. You might remember we had the same thing for He-Man's 40th anniversary, and that appeared across basically everything that was released the entire year. So I'm hoping we see the same thing with the She-Ra logo. That should be across the board. But they also changed the card back here. It still has that upshot of Castle Grayskull behind the figures, but now it's got this much more ominous tone to it, where it's red and orange and there's bats flying around, and you can see Hordak's visage appearing above Castle Grayskull, sort of acknowledging the arrival of the evil Horde, I guess, here on Eternia. Let's go ahead and just compare this real quick to what the cartoon collection packaging looked like before. We're going to actually take a look at some of these guys later in the video here too with Spikor. But you can see before, it did have this much more cooler tone to it with the blues and the purples and just a bit more calming. And now the new ones are this bright red, this very evil feel to them. So they're definitely leaning pretty heavy into the Horde for She-Ra's 40th anniversary here in this line. And that's interesting. I think this looks cool, and I think I understand why they're doing this. But it's interesting that we didn't lean a little bit more pink for Princess of Power for the 40th anniversary. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think this was the right call to go Evil Horde over Great Rebellion or Princess of Power? I definitely think that could be left up for debate. But I do want to say that I think this is a cool looking refresh to the packaging. Now, the back of the boxes do follow suit with what we've seen before, where we've got some nice cross-sells down below. You'll notice that She-Ra and Hordak are actually from 2 separate waves. So She-Ra is part of Wave 1, which also includes Ram Man and Mantenna. Hordak is part of Wave 2, and I'm saying Wave 1 and 2 of this particular year. So that's Hordak, Manny-Faces, and Triclops there. And then above that, we do have some fantastic box art, as always, which depicts events that happened in specific episodes of Princess of Power. She-Ra's is as seen on Treasure of the First Ones. I love seeing Octavia there. And then Hordak's is as seen on Luki Lends a Hand. And look, we've got Imp up there, which is pretty cool. And obviously some artifacts from the shows as well. So cool stuff. Why don't we go ahead and start by opening these two up and getting a closer look at them. You know, I will point out that 5 years ago, which, gosh, feels like a lifetime ago at this point, we did get the 35th anniversary She-Ra in the MOTU Origins line. This one, I believe, started as a PowerCon exclusive, was probably also on Mattel Creations, although I don't remember exactly. It's just all blending together at this point. But that one did come on a more retro pink Princess of Power style card back, though this was also one of the collector-friendly boxes where you could remove that backer there and pull the figure out of it. But even the bubble and everything is shaped more like what the vintage She-Ra blister bubbles look like. And it had a 35-year anniversary sticker on it. We got the 40th on the new ones here. So I did want to throw that up there as a side-by-side. Again, just to throw out the question, do you think the new She-Ra 40th figures should have went more this route? All right, She-Ra includes a brand new mini comic entitled Horde Invasion. And this is the comic that's going to come with all of those Wave 1 figures for 25, being She-Ra, Ram Man, and Mantenna. And it's a great story talking about the Horde Invasion here. And just flipping through this, I immediately got excited for one very specific thing. This character right here. This character is Brain, and I was not expecting to see him in this book. This is the Power and Honor Foundation catalog, which, among all of the awesome Masters of the Universe books that have been released over the years, this is my personal favorite. This thing is filled with incredible concept artwork, which gave us just this peek behind the curtain at the creation of this brand that we had never really seen before. There's been a lot of great information out there, but this book has so much good stuff in here that was so amazing when I first saw it. And one of my favorites has always been this guy right here, the guy that was featured on that card back. That's Brain. And let me read this to you real quick so you can see why I love him so much. Ted Mayer designed a plethora of action figures, but one of his personal favorites was a concept simply known as Brain, a character he believed would have been a great addition to the Evil Horde. This figure would have been included in the original lineup of the Evil Horde, and Brain's action feature would have seen blood pumped around the brain in a transparent dome. The blood pumping concept was eventually used for 1987's Mosquitor. Brain is sort of a proto-Mosquitor, and he's an awesome looking character. If Sketchbook series is going to continue, Mattel, we need a Brain. This better be a teaser for Brain, and he better have a blood pumping action feature. All right, let's get back to these toys. All right, so let's talk about the figure. Bringing in the tape measure here, you can see that She-Ra stands basically right at 5.5 inches tall, right there in that 5.5 style that you would expect her to be. And this is the third She-Ra figure I believe we've had in the Origins lineup now, but this is the first time we've had one that goes full on into her Filmation look, which is her more iconic look. Like this right here is what most people think of when they think of She-Ra, this original concept right here. And I gotta say, I think Mattel nailed it. I think they did a really, really good job on this. I love the face sculpt on this. I think it looks very Filmation, especially with those pointy eyebrows there. I love the tiara that is part of the sculpt of the head. So different than that removable toy tiara from the vintage Princess of Power line. She has fully sculpted hair, which is a bright yellow in color. She's got the sculpted cape there, which is a pliable plastic, which is really nice. And then you can see that the skirt piece is also like a pliable plastic that is on over the waist. It is non-removable, it seems. But all in all, I think this looks really great. She's very bright and clean. The white looks really good. The gold looks really good on top of that white there. I really like the look of this particular new She-Ra figure here. Now, her articulation should be exactly what you expect if you are familiar with MOTU Origins. With that head being on a ball joint, that hair is going to hinder that movement a bit, but then the arms can go outwards, forwards, backwards, roll around there, swivel at the elbow, bend at the elbow, swivel and hinge at the wrist there. You can twist at the waist. The legs can go outwards. You can see that the skirt, well, she popped apart. So the skirt, that's because the skirt hindered it a little bit. Hey, but this is worth noting. The skirt is a piece that just removes off of this. If you're seeing this for the first time, don't let that freak you out, because one of the features about MOTU Origins is their pop and play ability. You can also swivel at the knees. You can bend at the knees. Wow, those are some tight knee joints there. Swivel at the boots, and then the ankles can go forwards, backwards, as well as rock side to side. And yeah, like we just kind of saw, all of those mix and match elements should still be here on this figure. Ooh, that head is on that ball joint really tight. There we go. That will also allow you to remove the cape, which has got a nice little gold chain piece up there at the top. You can remove the arms from the sockets. You can remove the hands from the arms. So all of your mixing and matching desires can still be met with this new version of She-Ra. Now, She-Ra does come with two accessories. Of course, she has to have the Sword of Protection, and this one is much more Filmation inspired. You can see it is now molded in a silvery gray plastic. It does have the stone right there in the middle of the sword, so it does look like a thinner version of He-Man's from Filmation, which is different from the vintage toy version of She-Ra. One thing I'll say about this sword is that it is molded in a very pliable, almost gummy plastic. And I am not really a fan of that. I do feel like this should have been a little bit more rigid, I think. So I think it's okay. Like, it's straight, it's not bent or anything like that. I do worry about plastic like that sort of sagging over time, so I hope that's not the case here. But you can see it's actually got quite a good size to it. It's like a nice long sword, and it fits really nicely in her hands. Now, her second accessory is her shield. And I always feel it very important to point out that this is the sword. Sword to shield. In Filmation, She-Ra oftentimes turned the Sword of Protection into different things as she needed them. So in this case, sword to shield. It does have a handle on the back, which feels like it's a really big handle, but it does fit in her hands just fine. And that way you can have her with her shield also. She can't have the shield and the sword at the same time because it's the sword, guys. Okay, all right, they're toys, whatever. You can do whatever. Here you go. If you want to armor up with the Sword of Protection and the shield, I'm going to look down on you, but you can do it if you want. All right, I definitely think we have to do a little bit of comparison time because we have had a few She-Ras already in MOTU Origins. So let's start with that 35th anniversary one that I showed you guys earlier that was in the pink package. This was the one that came with rooted hair, paying homage to the vintage She-Ra action figure, and that's what she's based on, which is why she has this version of the tiara and the belts. Even the sword is very different there, being sort of like He-Man's, but gold like the vintage action figures. And then, of course, there was the retail release of the She-Ra, which is this one right here, where it's essentially the same costume, but they gave her sculpted hair instead of rooted hair. So it is really interesting looking at these all side by side, and this really shows you how the new Filmation one, the Cartoon Collection one, very much stands out from the bunch. All right, so Hordak will come packaged with the mini comic Slime Lord, Part 2 of Horde Invasion. And this will come with Hordak, Man-Faces, and Triclops. And oh my gosh, guys, all the teasing Mattel keeps doing with the slime pits, we had better be getting a slime pit at some point. That's all I'm going to say. They keep getting us with all the slime pit stuff and all these comics. I want a dang slime pit playset to go with Origin. So much like the She-Ra, this version of Hordak is inspired by his Filmation look, which was quite a bit different from his toy look. Obviously, the big standout is that he had blue skin as opposed to the gray skin of the vintage toy. But even the head and everything is a lot different on this version of Hordak. And I will say that Mattel once again did a really good job here. I think this looks very much like the cartoon version of Hordak. I love that he's got this cowl as a separate piece from his head. So we've got a fully turnable head on the inside there, spiky blue mohawk, big pointy ears, bright white face with those sharp red teeth. I think he looks awesome. Also, the armor, I was really impressed the way they handled this because even on the vintage toy, he had sort of like these little rib cage type pieces there. And on this new one, instead of it being painted, it's actually built this way. So you can actually see his torso through the rib cage pieces on the side. I think he's really great looking all the way around, all the way down to his big ol' Hordak duck feet. Look at those big flat feet there for Hordak. New feet on this guy. So I love him. I think he looks awesome. And this is another place where we got to talk about how he retains all of the same pieces of removable parts as the other figures. And the collar is part of the armor, which is really interesting here. So you can remove the armor if you want to by unplugging it in the back. You can see the collar is a separate piece. And the Hordak head, like I showed you, it's like its own isolated thing without that collar on there, which I think is great. Now this Hordak figure comes with one accessory in the form of this time device, which does come straight out of the animated series, as we saw in the artwork on the back. Essentially, Hordak uses this to freeze people in place in time. This is an interesting accessory. It's super hollowed out. It's very light plastic, very hollow. It does have a big handle on the back to allow the action figure to be able to hold it, like so. So you could recreate scenes from that episode where he's freezing time. However, I do have mixed feelings because this is the only accessory that this Hordak comes with. And I really do feel like he should have come with some more character-specific accessories. Specifically, why didn't we get at least one arm attachment? Hordak in the Filmation series was known for constantly transforming his body. I feel like we should have got something like an arm attachment. Maybe we could have even thrown Imp in there with him instead. This is a fine accessory, and I'm never mad about cool episode-specific accessories. It just feels like we should have got something a little more Hordak than this. All right, we got to do a Hordak comparison time here as well because we've had lots of Hordaks in this line. Of course, the first Hordak in MOTU Origins was more based on his vintage toy and did a great job of recreating the vintage toy. But showing these side by side, you could really see the big differences here and just how different that Filmation version of Hordak really is. Now, in addition to that, we did also get Buzzsaw Hordak, which very similar looking. He just had the action feature in the torso there. But we also got this exclusive version of Hordak, which I believe was a PowerCon exclusive. And this one sort of paid homage to Filmation's version of Hordak by just kind of repainting the standard Hordak with blue skin, but also giving him, like, we got a smiling face, we've got some robotic parts on his arms, and look at this, he's got an arm attachment over here. Now, unfortunately, this arm attachment probably isn't going to fit on this new Hordak because look at that thing. That is like a totally different peg here. So I do kind of wish that this new Hordak would have actually got some arm attachments, like I said, but there you could really see the difference between new, proper Filmation Hordak and what we got previously in MOTU Origins. Okay, next up we're going to take a look at the first entry in what Mattel is calling the Masters of the Universe Sketchbook series. And I really like the idea here because I've always been a big fan of seeing concept artwork being turned into real action figures. And that's essentially what we've got going on here. And since we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of Princess of Power, they decided to give us two Horde characters, in this case being inspired by early designs for both Hordak and Grizzlor. Now, this artwork has actually been floating around from various sources online for many years now, and I would highly suggest, if you've never looked into any of this stuff before, go check out my friend over at Battle Ram blog. I'll make sure I link to it in the video description. He collects all the information and images from numerous sources to kind of compile all this stuff together so you can get a really good snapshot for what all of this is. And basically, yes, these are thought to be, well, this one specifically, early concept for Hordak, and this was thought to be an early concept for Grizzlor, who almost looks like an entirely different character. But Mattel has now made them in action figure form, and we get this really cool new packaging layout for this particular series, where it's in this black and white sketchbook style box, window box, showcasing the figures within. But all of the artwork around here is interesting because it's not the actual vintage concept art. It's new artwork of these characters, which is pretty fun stuff. So you can see over here on the right-hand side, we've got this sketch of this early Grizzlor, and over here on the left, we've got this sketch of this early Hordak. And then the back of the box gives us some fully fleshed out, beautiful new artwork of this version of Hordak and Grizzlor. Look at this, going up against our early concept He-Man. Look, there's even like an early version of Skeletor back here in what I assume is like a fright zone there. Really, really fun stuff. I think this is awesome. I love the idea for this. I hope this opens the door for more stuff like this. But in the meantime, why don't we open this box up and take a look at the figures within. So this early concept for Hordak is a very different look than what the character ended up looking like. And that's, you know, one of those things with character design. Sometimes when they're creating a character, they go through several different iterations before we land on the final character. So this one has been pretty prominent as far as like concept art that's been floating around. And the entire character almost has more of like a Mad Max style look to it, because he looks more human-esque, more like the Barbarian still, but he's got like a helmet with horns on it. He's got spiked armor. He's got like, you know, the big furry boots with kind of the metal on it. So definitely seems to have almost like this post-apocalyptic vibe to it. And it really translated very well into action figure form. I think they did a good job of taking that original concept art and creating something very different here. The armor, I love the details that are worked in. Like if you look at the back of the sculpt here, you can see that there is a bat silhouette kind of sculpted onto the back of the armor. And on the front, even that Horde emblem is a little different. It is more kind of inspired by some of those smaller versions of the Horde insignia that we saw in a lot of that early concept art. I think it's really cool there. In fact, even the bat emblem on his helmet is a little bit different than that. A lot of the bits here do seem to be new with the armor, obviously the head. This belt is like a larger belt piece over the standard pelvis where he's got like the larger spikes protruding. You can see even like these furry boot tops here are kind of just over like the standard legs there, but they do look very, very different. This arm over here actually comes straight off of that other Hordak that we were looking at early on in the video. If you see, it looks just like that PowerCon exclusive version of Blue Hordak. It even has that same arm cannon attachment on there. This time around, it's just painted black and gray instead of blue and silver. So yeah, even our concept Hordak here gets an arm cannon that our Filmation Hordak did not. But all in all, I really like the look of this character. I think he looks really cool. And one of the things that can be said about both of the figures in this box set is that they almost don't even have to be Hordak and Grizzlor. They don't have to be concept figures. These look like they could just be generic Horde guys, more members of the Horde Empire to display in your collection if you want. Kind of like all those various different snake men that we've been getting recently. It looks like we've got ways to build out our evil Horde now, and I think that is pretty cool. Just for funsies, I thought it would be neat to bring in some of the other versions of Hordak here, just to show how vastly different he ended up looking. And in fact, vintage toy to animation was also pretty different. But yeah, all three of these guys are Hordak, technically. The concept Grizzlor is wild. I love this. And again, I think they did a fairly decent job of translating this action figure from that original concept art. It's not exact, but it's a really good inspiration. Like, it's very good, like, inspired by that old concept artwork there. This is one of those characters where even when you look at that original concept, you're not entirely sure that this is Grizzlor. He's just a furry guy, and maybe ultimately we got to Grizzlor with him. He almost looks more like a boar with like long tusks. He's also kind of been touted as the Horde mammoth by fans over years. And in that original concept art, if you look at the Horde emblem on his chest, it's not Hordak's face in the center of that bat, it's Skeletor's face. Now, they did change that on this particular figure. That is clearly a Hordak-inspired face in the center of the Horde bat, like an actual Hordak face as we know him on that Horde bat there. And he's wearing a Horde armband over here as well. So Horde logos on the boots. I do love these feet. Look at these like robotic feet that he has. He's got these armor bits over the thighs. And he's got this very furry sculpt all the way through. So again, a lot of new stuff going on with this guy. I think he's very cool looking. I love that the armor bit here has this extra fur up around his collar. And this is all a separate piece that can come off with the armor there. And that head sculpt is very cool. You can see it does look almost like he's got this longer pig type snout there, and then he's got these huge tusks coming down on the sides with larger, almost bat shaped ears. I think it's a very cool head sculpt. I like the look of this guy quite a bit. I mean, even look at his hands. He's got these furry hands with only 3 fingers and a thumb, and they all end in these like claws right here. Really, really cool look for this character. I think they did a lot here. Now for his weapon, they just recycled Terraclaw's Skeletor's claws, but they did them in like a gunmetal color that matches the armor that's on his thighs there. And that actually works pretty good. I think that's pretty cool, giving him those huge claws there. But, you know, if we bring in Grizzlor from MOTU Origins, you can see that's a pretty drastic difference between these two characters there. Like, he really, really came a long way in his whole design there to come up with something completely different than what this original concept was. But again, just like I said for Hordak, this really could just be another member of the Horde. I think he looks really cool. I think this 2-pack is pretty fantastic. Both of these figures are awesome, and I hope this is the start of something new. I would love to see more concept stuff like this throughout the line. All right, why don't we go ahead and take a look at the rest of that She-Ra wave, because I did pre-order this wave and recently got them in from Big Bad Toy Store. So this wave gives us the Filmation, or cartoon collection version of Mantenna and Ram Man. 2 characters we've already had in MOTU Origins, but their Filmation looks are different, specifically Mantenna. He really stands out here. So I'm kind of excited to get this one opened up and see what we've got there. But you can see same 40th anniversary of She-Ra Cardbacks there with these two. The backs of the box give you the cross cells as well as showing you what their features are, or in the case of Ram Man, that he includes the Shapoopy idol. And then above that, we've got some awesome artwork there depicting scenes from Princess of Power. Mantenna's is as seen on A Loss for Words. We've got Shadow Weaver on there, which is great. And then Ram Man's from the House of Shakoti. So really fun stuff. Let's rip these guys open. Let's check them out. All right, let's take a look at Ram Man from the cartoon collection. So he's shipping in these newer waves in the She-Ra 40th anniversary Cardbacks, but obviously we're going to be getting some He-Man and the Masters of the Universe characters mixed in here as well. This one's really fun because I think at first glance, it's real easy to say, well, how is this different than what we got before? So why don't I just go ahead and do this right off the bat? It's comparison time with our MOTU Origins version of Ram Man. So this one was supposed to be inspired more by the vintage toy. You can see he's got the larger arms as a result. The cartoon collection one has a lot more definition in his arms. He's really got those biceps pumping there. Look at that. But the other biggest difference here is in the legs, because the Origins version of Ram Man still retains the similar feature to the vintage toy, where the legs are joined together up towards the top, and they have the spring-in action where the legs press into the body. On this new cartoon collection version of Ram Man, look at this. Full legs! Yes, I have to lift up Ram Man's skirt thing here to show you, but it's full legs, full articulation, still has almost like that spring-like look to his pants that he's wearing, but yes, no more action feature there. He stands a little bit taller as a result, so you can see he's a bit taller than the first version, but also difference in the way that the face is done. The eyebrows and the eyes themselves are quite different. A lot less detail and definition because this is from the animation, so this has got a lot more detail on the toy version there, but really interesting looking at these two side by side so that you can really see the standout differences there. So I mentioned that he stands a little bit taller. If I bring in the tape measure here, you can see that he's over 5.5 inches tall, just a little bit there, not quite pushing 6 inches. So with his legs straightened up there, he should still stand a little bit shorter than characters like He-Man. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and also a little weird seeing Ram Man without his legs stuck together all the time. And I know he's not the first to not have his legs stuck together. Obviously, we had other figures like MOTU Classics and Masterverse, but still, maybe it's because he's in this retro 5.5 style that it's standing out to me a little bit extra there. Otherwise, his articulation is exactly what you would expect. Even though he's got this big crazy helmet and shoulder armor, the head still turns left and right pretty good. You can see it kind of moves the armor around a little bit. Then the arms will go outwards, forwards, backwards, swivel at the elbow, bend, swivel at the wrist, bend there, turn at the torso, and then the legs, as I just showed you. You do have those knees there as well. There you go, bending at the knees, and then swiveling at the boot cut with the ankles that can also rock side to side. So you should be able to get some pretty cool poses out of this version of Ram Man, and he should also retain all of the same mixing and matching. Look at that, the armor comes right over the top. He looks hilarious without that shoulder armor on there. But yeah, you can still just pop the head off of the ball joint if you want to. Torso is a bit different on there. He's got that bigger torso. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, I like this. I like that we've got a new version of this character that's a little more closely tied to the way he looks in the animated series. Now, he himself doesn't really come with any weapons to use, but he does come with this Shakoti idol, of course, from the House of Shakoti episode. And I know I make the jokes all the time, but come on, Ram Man is so closely tied to this because of his inability to remember her name and always mispronounce it, and Shapoopy's my favorite. It doesn't do anything. It stands there. At least it stands. So, no axe or any weapons like that for this Ram Man, though I guess he didn't really use an axe in Filmation. And I think little nods to specific episodes like this are always pretty fun. That brings us over to Mantenna, and I love this one. Mantenna is one that has a pretty drastic difference in Filmation compared to his appearance in the vintage Masters of the Universe toy line. So, getting an action figure that is more inspired by his Filmation appearance is always pretty exciting. This version of Mantenna is much thinner than what we've seen before. So look at this. He's got like a new torso there that is quite a bit thinner. You can see he's got the 3-fingered hands, he's got skinnier legs, and of course he's got this pelvis piece down here that has the 4 different leg attachments on there, which is pretty cool. Now, this is still removable, so this is all like one piece right here. We can still detach it at the midsection there, the waist, if you want to, which is pretty fun stuff. And then he's got different looking legs with these kind of having like almost like this hair sticking off the sides of it, and the solid blue color boots, while the legs on the front look a little more normal with the black colored boots on there. I love this guy. And of course, his head is a really nice sculpt that does a great job of capturing the look of this character with his big silly eyes and his ears. And he does retain an action feature. So you might notice this little button protruding out of the back of his head here. And that's because when you press this button in, the eyes spring forward, exactly like in the animated series. And you see, they just go back in his head when you let go of the button. It's like a spring-loaded little button there. And it's a perfectly self-contained action feature because the head itself is still removable. You can see the very skinny neck there, but the ball socket is the same size as the others. And the action feature is all just right there within the head. So that's pretty cool that they were able to make that work so it doesn't get in the way of the removable heads at all. This is going to be a really fun one. It's comparison time. Look at this. I just wanted to show these side by side because man, the vintage version of Mantenna is a completely different looking character than what we got in Filmation. So this is the MOTU Origins Mantenna over here, still with the awesome 4 legs look, with the exact same type of action feature in the head, but just totally different looks for the character, which is really, really awesome. I love this one. Here's a bonus for you. This is a wave of cartoon collection I had not taken a look at yet in video. I still had them sitting in the studio carded. So we're going to also take a look at Clawful, Warrior with the Grip of Evil, and Spikor, Untouchable Master of Evil Combat. So these come on the previous years, I guess actually this year's, 2024's, Masters of the Universe Cartoon Collection Cardbacks there. We got the mini comics packaged behind the characters, and of course our cross-sells, also showing you the action features and or accessories that they come packaged with some beautiful artwork up here on the top, as inspired by some of the episodes of Filmation's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Let's rip these 2 Skeletor minions open and take a look at them. So let's take a look at our cartoon collection Clawful action figure, because this is another one that looked pretty different in Filmation compared to his original action figure. And I think they did a really good job of capturing the look of this character here. It's funny, he almost looks a little bit more snake-like in this form than he does like Crabster, than he does crab or lobster-like. I like Crabster. Let's go with that. He's a Crabster. Aside from like the claw hands, of course, which are like the standard claw hands that we've already seen. We've seen them on Buzz Off. We saw on the other version of Clawful, but otherwise, you know, it's very basic. He's got the new armor, but same kind of loincloth piece, all red, orange, blue, very bright, vibrant, clean, really cool looking character. He does come with one accessory in the form of the Horn of Evil, which is another episode specific accessory. Let me see, I'm curious, can his claw actually hold onto this thing? Can we get a good grip on it here? Yeah, actually, no, not really. Yeah, I thought I had it clipped in there. It is really not holding on too well. There, got it, kind of. There we go. Horn of Evil. Pretty fun. You know, Filmation artifacts, they're pretty cool. And you know, a lot of these guys didn't have like their own standard weapons in Filmation either. Every now and then you have one where it really feels like they should have come with an accessory. Clawful doesn't necessarily feel like that. But here we go. Let's go ahead and do this. It's comparison time, because these don't even look like the same character, do they? I mean, this one over here, the Origins Clawful, is of course inspired by his look in the vintage toy line, which was just a completely different look to the character seen on Filmation. I often wondered, like, how they translated some of these characters. Like, why did they translate so incredibly different when putting them in the cartoon series? I do think that's one thing that's fun about the Cartoon Collection toy line. I liked it when Masters of the Universe Classics did it with the Club Eternia line as well, because Clawful was one of the ones we got in that line. Because so many of these guys look so different, it's worth it to have like action figures that look the way they actually did in the cartoon, which is one of those things as a kid. I was like, why don't some of these guys look the same? And finally, that brings us over to Spikor here, which I think this guy looks fantastic. I actually really like his cartoon collection appearance. The head is a little more round in the front. The eyes aren't as weird and like kind of bug-eyed on him. But, you know, he still looks like Spikor. When you look at him, you can tell it's Spikor. All of the spikes are pliable, but that's not to say they're not like a little pokey. Like, this is like when you grab it, he can be pretty sharp, so watch out for that. But they are all pliable there, which is really cool. This time around, it is more like a bodysuit, so this does not appear to be removable from the figure at all. But all of these parts should still swap out here, so we can pull the arm out of socket. Yeah, look at that. There you go. That is just attached to the body on this one, which is probably good. That way it doesn't look too big and puffy like armor. You know, it's just his body. That's just the way it's supposed to look. All of the colors are bright and vibrant on here too. Like his arms and legs are like, man, they are like a hot pink. They are glowing there. It's like day glow pink. And his accessories are pretty cool. So first of all, in the Filmation cartoon, he did appear with 2 hands. And of course, on the vintage toy, we always remember him having 1 hand that's a trident hand. So this figure does include a swappable trident piece that you can attach just by popping the hand out of socket, and then you can attach this little trident on in its place. Now, it doesn't extend like the vintage one, but now you've got it on there if that's the way that you prefer to display your Spikor, which I think is a really cool inclusion. The other accessories are Filmation specific, and these are actually really fun. So these are from an episode called The Games. And in this episode, like, essentially some aliens put a good guy and a bad guy in these games and made them compete against each other. Spikor was the bad guy that was put in it. And what they had to do is they had to find these game pieces. Every time they found a yellow game piece, it was worth 100 points, I think. And every time they found there was 1 red piece, and it was worth 2,000 points. And then that's what they did, like good guys versus bad guys. It was really interesting stuff. This top piece right here is supposed to be a button because they would hit the button in the show to get their points. And then you can see on the back side, there's actually a little handle that's built in. And these are cool. They're like translucent plastic, so they're bright and vibrant. And you can actually get the figures to hold onto them. I don't know. It's a really fun, very obscure accessory. But the fact that we got that in addition to the trident hand for Spikor is something that I really appreciate. I think this is a very cool figure. So there you go, my friends. A bunch of new action figures celebrating the 40th anniversary of She-Ra, the Princess of Power, as well as the evil Horde. All in all, I really like all of these figures. I think the cartoon collection is continuing to get better with each of these releases. That Mantenna is fantastic, and that She-Ra, definitely the best She-Ra in Origins, but certainly ranks among the best She-Ra figures we've ever had, in my opinion. I think she's awesome. Hordak is also fantastic, but also, as a fan of the history of this brand, I love the Sketchbook series. I think those are incredibly fun figures. And I know that the concept stuff isn't for everyone, but I think as special releases here and there, I'd love to see some of the stuff that we've never gotten before. In fact, I would love them to continue down the road of giving us some of these characters that have never been made before, like Brain. Concepts of existing characters are cool, but concepts that never saw the light of day for new characters, man, to me, that is an exciting thing to think about. Now, as far as like where we're going to be able to buy the Sketchbook series figures, I'm not entirely sure. I believe that's probably going to be exclusive somewhere, but Mattel actually did not include that information with this shipper, and actually I don't believe they've announced it yet. I can't find it. So as soon as we know something, like, I'll make sure I share it out on my socials. I'm sure Mattel will announce it as well. So just make sure you stay tuned to that. The rest of these Origins figures are all available through Big Bad Toy Store or other online retailers right now. Series 1 is already shipping, and Series 2 is on pre-order and shipping very, very soon, if not by the time that this video drops. So definitely go check those out if you are interested. Special thanks to Mattel for sending the box over with those couple figures in it so we can get a good look at them a little bit early. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And until next time, my friends.